once you find your spot, it's just wonderful. So you need to know that that you will get there sometime at some point, and it's okay to search for it, but don't settle until you kind of feel like it is it. Because I think too many people settle down and compromise and say, oh, it's okay, but they are not deeply fulfilled. And I think everyone can really experience deep fulfillment and joy.
Welcome to a new episode of the DefDevice Podcast. And I would heartily welcome Madame Isabelle Bart today. Welcome, Isabelle.
Thank you. Merci.
Yes, vous êtes française. You are a French lady. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who is living in California right now, or at least staying there, yeah.
Yes, actually, I'm both French and American now.
Okay, very good. It's a pleasure to have you, Isabelle. And we always start with asking you to introduce yourself and what you're doing in your business right now. So I see Impact Innovator is obviously the business you're working on. So what does Impact Innovator do?
Correct. So the name of my company is Impact Innovator. I do a lot of different things all around innovation and entrepreneurship. After years in the corporate world, I've been really working with entrepreneurs for about 7 years now. And I help startups primarily with an impact get off the ground, basically bring their innovation to market. So I do this through companies directly, but also a lot through the universities and different accelerator programs in the US, in Europe, around the world. So I love companies that have an impact built in. So, as they grow their business model, their impact is going to spread. So usually in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So the impact can be anything from, food security to environment. I do actually a lot of work at the moment in blue economy, which has become my passion, everything that's ocean related, and how we can really, again, bring that innovation to market, build these companies that will, perpetuate and also solve a lot of the problems we have in the world today. I also really enjoy working across countries. So with my European background, I'm able to help a lot of startups and companies coming from Europe into the United States, really understanding the difference between the markets. You've lived in a lot of countries, you know that, yourself very well, selling things in a given country is very different from the neighbor country. Cultures are different. What matters the most is different. So I really enjoy working also with foreign companies and leveraging that asset I have with my multicultural background to help them succeed in the US and again in other countries in the world as well.
That sounds very exciting. And yes, I can relate to your multicultural background. When I was 10 years old, I lived in 5 different countries. So yes, I've been moving around a lot. And yeah, helping, that makes you like the ultimate expert in the entrepreneur world, because you are helping startups to get off the ground, and you're also engaged in the green economy. And you're doing like international things, helping European companies to set up shop in the US, I guess. That's all very exciting. So can you give us like an example, like what would be like a project that's, something that you might want to share? How does it work? How do you help a specific business to grow?
So an example is I work with very early stage. So I'll give you an example of very early stage, but it can be more advanced as well. For example, in California at the moment, there is a company that is doing indoor farming, so slightly different than what we may have seen with containers in the past, because there is a lot of downside that they were able to fix. So they are building this little 10 by 12 feet indoor farms with a lot of technologies plug in, with solar powered, where you can grow any kind of crop. The idea is also to do things more locally. So you're reducing emissions because you're growing local, but also that's a lot about economic impact in your area, because people can now make a living from growing this produce. So it's kind of like a little bit like giving a car so someone can be an Uber driver, for
Hmm.
example. So we're working with a lot of different business models around that. In blue economy, I'm really excited also to see innovation, cleaning waters. I just also instructed in a program where there was a lot of data capture technology. So in the form of buoys, how to detect, for example, debris and plastic in the ocean to be a lot more efficient around how you can go and gather it and a lot less costly. That's an example. I mean, I believe on a given month, I see up to, 30 to 50 new concepts or new pitches. So I'm
Wow.
very lucky. I love my job because I see all kinds of innovation all day long.
Wow. I mean, that sounds really inspiring. So, and it's and most of these businesses seem to have some like green sustainability purpose to clean the ocean, to grow vegetables in your own house. I think that's a fascinating concept. I actually know a person here in Malaysia who is very, very involved in this. This where they build these little towers, and I think the carbon footprint is like 2 or 3% of like what normal farming would do. So they have like a huge impact on on the efficiency of growing foods and vegetables. So I think that's a really fascinating topic to deal
Yeah,
with.
and exactly. And I think what the concept of abundance, having great businesses with profit and impact, which we also call the triple bottom line, right? People, planet, profit, meaning,
Hmm.
right? Profit is not evil, but we can also achieve it all at the same time. And I think that's really the kind of work I'm interested in, because showing that by solving these problems, you're creating great companies. And actually, there is a lot of data out there showing also that companies that have more of an impact or mission driven culture do actually perform a lot of times better than traditional companies.
Hmm. Yeah, I fully agree. To have purpose in your business, I think is very essential. And if it's just about profit, I don't think it's going to go very far. But to have the other two P's, people and planet, I think that makes the whole thing so much more purposeful and so much more worth spending your time with this. Yeah, I mean, you're doing really exciting stuff, which makes me even more curious. How did 10-year-old Isabelle become the Isabel she is today? So let's do a little time travel here, and let's meet 10-year-old Isabel. So what was she up to? What was she doing, and how did she unfold to become the Isabel you are today?
One thing that most people have a hard time believing about me is I grew up in a very, very small town. So about 300 people town.
Hmm.
So I have a very deep community driven culture. I was very close to my grandparents. Actually, probably the biggest memories I have at 10 was that after school every day I would bike to my grandpa and grandma. And my grandma is still alive at 98 today. And then
Wow.
my other grandmother, who unfortunately has passed away now, but I would visit my grandparents. I will ride my bike, and I was really enjoying being in nature. So again, I lived in the country, so
Where was
you
that?
know,
In
it
in
was
in
in the
Fr
southwest of France.
Southwest of France.
Um,
Okay.
yes, in one of the most rural areas in France, where there are more ducks and cows than people actually, and a lot of people like visiting because the food is one of the best that you can find in France. But it was very, again, a very different life that, when now I live, in Los Angeles, or, it's completely different. I, yeah, enjoy nature. I really enjoyed family activities, and, again, being close to my grandparents, my dear friends who are still very good friends today. Um, so it gave me a lot of values that I think are strength today for my work and even in personal life. That's really what I think about it. Definitely not so much entrepreneurship. Actually, not. really in my family, I don't really have anyone who's an entrepreneur. So that's also why I feel like it took me so long in my career in really doing work in entrepreneurship, because I wasn't exposed to it as much. Except, you could argue my grandfather, who unfortunately I didn't know because he had died before I was born, but was a farmer. So that was a sort of, I mean, that was an entrepreneur, but I didn't really, again, saw that growing up. Other than that, right, my parents had a very traditional middle class, culture, but yeah, so it's interesting to your point about how all these different things can shape your future when you're growing up.
Yeah, yeah. And so you were living in this village, and what was the next step? I mean, what happened next? So did you move somewhere
So the
else?
other, yes, actually, the other big thing that happened, I would say, right after this, so when I was 11, my parents got divorced, which was probably the first. Not many people divorced where I was, right? So that was kind of a big deal. And my mom moved to the other side of the country. So there was, again, a very different experience. We moved, about 800 miles away to a different region. I had to make a lot of new friends. It was very hard. And at the same time, I was really looking forward to that move, in the sense that we were moving to a bigger city. I lived in Strasbourg at the time, which is right on the border of Germany, and beautiful city. So also as a teenager, I became a lot more independent in terms of taking public transportation, moving around the city. And I realized, I think I was really also a fan of city life, because I like the country, but I'm very social. I like discovering new things, meeting people, and being in a city was also a nice thing, which after that, I actually went to Paris for a few years. So Paris was even a bigger city. I do like the energy you can get in a city.
So you moved to Paris then to study, or was that?
Yes, after high school, I went to Paris, studied. I was in a very competitive program, and then I took this big exam and attended a pretty big business school in Paris, which actually is the reason why I ended up in California, because I had to study abroad, and picked UC Irvine, where I'm still actually teaching a little bit, which is, kind of things go, as they say, full circle. But that's what took me here from Paris at the time. I was definitely enjoying Paris, but also longing the calm and maybe the space of the country that I was used to growing up. And I found that when I landed in California, especially where I live in Orange County, you kind of get both. I mean, there's city, but there's also still a lot of space, open space, nature, obviously ocean, coast. And I think I was really longing for that I missed in Paris, along with the good weather, of course.
Yeah, I was to California once. It's quite an amazing place to live, I guess. So you did your studies in Paris, and then together with your study program, you moved to California. And so what happened when you finished your studies? What was your first ambition to enter the business world?
So actually, when I was in California, I enjoyed it so much that I thought, well, I should get some professional experience here, because it would be fantastic for my career. And I really had this kind of sign as I was walking on the beach. I just realized, I'm made to be here. I don't know why, but I'm meant to be right here. And so I was able to stay in California, but also because I grew up in this culture in France where it's very typical for people to go work for bigger companies and potentially your whole career spending in a company, right? So I thought, well, I would work for L'Oreal or whoever, one of these big companies, and climb the ladder, and that's what you're supposed to do. Really, I felt like here I was looking for the same thing. And actually it wasn't that easy in a way, because where I live, there were not that many big corporations. But eventually I was able to get hired and did medical device work. It was an international company. So I thought, yeah, perfect. It's a corporation. That's where I'm supposed to go. And that company, a few years into it, was acquired by a bigger pharmaceutical company, a big American pharmaceutical company, public, of course. And there was always something off for me. I realized, a lot of it didn't make sense in the work I was doing. There wasn't like a long-term strategy, or and more importantly, everything was about profit, because public companies, right, their number one duty is return to shareholders. I really started having a major issue with that consciously. I just felt like my talent, my skills were meant to do something much bigger in the world and change the world to make it a better place. I really had that community mindset. So I was able, a few years after that, to actually work in nonprofit for Association of Nurses. Again, it was a lot more meaningful to me, because we were helping nurses and also help their patients. So it was in critical care, so a lot of, life and death situation. And also I was given a lot of responsibilities building everything marketing and communications related. I felt a sense of purpose finally, because I was given autonomy to build strategy, to invest in the right things, and to do the right things. I like that, and yet there was also some friction with the culture for me in the organization, because it was more corporate, and that's where I also realized the way I function as an individual is so much more entrepreneurial. And that's where actually a lot of people started telling me, you're amazing at your work. How do you survive here? Because you want to drive, you want to make things happen, and we slow you down all the time. That was, I think, the big aha moment that I had. And then finally understood, well, maybe I'm not made for this corporate world. Maybe I am an entrepreneur. And again, I would have never thought about it because of my upbringing, or because of what I thought I was supposed to do in the world, or, the kind of career you're supposed to have. So really, that's what changed everything for me about 10 years ago.
Mm. And that was 10 years ago. So that's when you decided, and you left the company, and you started your own business, or what did you do next?
Okay, so when I say about 10 years ago, I would say that's when I started thinking, okay, how do I even get this higher sense of purpose and in an environment where I can thrive and help others thrive? It took me a while, because I started doing nonprofit work, being on boards, right, helping in different ways, volunteering in incubators. That's really where I realized I love entrepreneurs. I love startups. I'm really good at this stuff. So I started doing that. But again, I was still not sure, okay, how do I didn't think I would build my own startup, because I wasn't an inventor. So I was like, how do I get into this? So it took me until COVID, actually 2020, to decide in the beginning of 2020, I'm going to make a change. Then the week that COVID hit, I think around the world, early March, I actually went to do my mammogram and got diagnosed with breast cancer that same month, which seemed at first, oh my God, like what else can happen this year? But the combination of COVID and my diagnosis for cancer was really what I want to say kicked me in the butt. Made me realize, what, life is precious. Life can be short. We don't know. I mean, I had no sign. Nobody believed at first that was really, I had cancer, because I was extremely physically healthy. And that was a sign for me to say, it's time to change. So I decided that by the end of 2020, I would move out of that organization. I was hired to actually build an impact incubator where I was in Orange County. It was the perfect job for me. So in 2021, I really built this program, brought advisors, mentors, and startups together, built a fantastic program. We were also building a fund to have capital available for the startups. And that's when I started really my career that I have today in helping startups. I left that program a year later and then created my company, Impact Innovator, started working on different projects, some funded by the government, actually in the United States,
Wow.
others
You have
funded by,
government
yes,
funding?
because I am an SBDC consultant, and SBDC is actually the Small Business Development Center across the country in the United States, funded by the Small Business Administration to support economic impact and the creation of successful businesses. I do this only for startups, not for any small business, but that's part of what I do. I do it with the University of California. I also teach innovation to commercialization pathways through customer discovery, also at the University of California. And then the blue economy work I do with a local accelerator called Brave Theory, where we have offices in Los Angeles, Barcelona, and Singapore. And I also instruct the startups and mentor them. So I'm involved, like I said, in different projects. All of them are now really aligned, I think, with my core mission of impact and innovation and entrepreneurship.
Wow. That was a fantastic story to hear how you came from a small village in France to becoming an impact innovator. Thank you so much for sharing, Isabelle. I really enjoyed hearing this, and as many times it's so inspiring to hear how people become who they are today, and I really love to kind of hear this process, how somebody becomes who they are today. And of course, I wish you all the best of success with your business. You even have an office in Singapore, which is next door to me. That's interesting. So if you happen to be in Singapore, please let me know.
I hope so. I know you're in the part of the world I really want to learn more about and visit more and do some diving in, because I know there are some fantastic dive spots. So
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
to spend more time there.
Yeah, it's definitely something to have a look at. Yeah, I mean, Southeast Asia is quite an amazing place, and yeah, Singapore, Malaysia, and of course all these surroundings here. There's a lot to discover, and of course it would be a pleasure to welcome here one day.
Thank you.
But before we end our session, of course, as I would like to hear your nuggets of wisdom, to hear what, if you had to summarize what you have learned in your life, and if you had to give some advice to an entrepreneur today, or maybe to 10-year-old Isabelle, what would it be? What would be like the nuggets of wisdom you would like to share with other entrepreneurs or startups, which you are working with a lot anyways?
One, I think, would be follow your intuition. And actually, I do a lot of coaching work around that. I think as a young person, so a 10-year-old, may be hard to do because you haven't been around in the world so long. I think as we get older, we really have our own, as I say, it's not machine learning, it's a human learning inside of us. A lot of it is subconscious. And I really truly believe you need a balance of rational thinking and intuitive thinking to really succeed. And you can see that with the successful entrepreneurs around the world that we think about, right? They have a very big power of intuition. I think that's super important. And also, it's okay to not fit or to not do what you think others want you to do, because I fought that battle for a long time, trying to conform or to follow the path I was supposed to follow, until I realized, maybe it's not my path. And since then, I experience joy every day. I love what I do. I love getting up in the morning. I don't call my work because it's really my life mission. So this is a huge blessing, right? So I think everybody has a unique spot in the world. And once you find your spot, it's just wonderful. So you need to know that that you will get there sometime at some point, and it's okay to search for it, but don't settle until you kind of feel like it is it. Because I think too many people settle down and compromise and say, oh, it's okay, but they are not deeply fulfilled. And I think everyone can really experience deep fulfillment and joy.
Oh, wow. That was really giving me goosebumps, Isabel. That's really amazing. I mean, I love the intuition part, and I think it's so many of us are missing out on that. And I think it's such a big mistake most of us make to try to make decisions with our brain alone by thinking, by rationalizing, by listening to other people. And I think that's only a very small part of the big picture. And I think there's a lot of things in this world that are not logical, and they can only be sensed when we actually allow intuition, which I think is a huge topic for another session. What is intuition? How to develop, how to listen, how to distinguish between what my heart says and what my brain says, and how to come maybe to some kind of compromise where, where we move along. And following your intuition is dangerous. I mean, most of the time, it's not what people say, it's not what is the normal thing that everybody expects you to do. And sometimes the intuition now tells us to go like really into the jungle, which is not safe. But at the same time, it's how you reach to this point, as you described, where you actually feel fulfilled and when you're living your life. And most of the time, it's not by following what other people tell you to do. So that's yeah, intuition is to me really a very, very big and important topic. And I would like to learn from you. I would like to learn how to build my intuition even better, because you obviously are very good at it. So maybe you should teach us how to how to listen and how to actually build our intuition. This is something I think is super relevant to everybody who is not following the beaten path of, study and then work and then receive your pension and then die. Yeah. But yeah, that's there's a whole world to explore, and I really looking forward to hear more from you and maybe learn more about your intuition skills and of course your purpose, the 3 Ps. I think it's very inspiring. And I'm sure that whoever is still listening to our podcast right now, I appreciate it. And I would, of course, also encourage you to get in touch with Isabelle. We will make sure that all the details are in the description. And yeah, let's see where we go from here, Isabelle. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.